Yes.
Okay. Good that you're here, everyone, despite the severe weather conditions. Hello. Today, we'll talk about the present perfect continuous as opposed to the present perfect simple that we covered last week. You'll realise by now that the number of tenses we've covered increases more and more, and so the complexity increases as well. Yeah, so in order to keep up, make sure you keep reviewing previous notes, or keep have another look at previous lectures that I all put them on that school, the ones I record. So you make sure you keep track of what we're talking about. Okay, so we'll talk about the present perfect continuous and contrast it with the present perfect simple. That's what we do today. I've got two sentences here. Why is it so quiet here? So quiet here. She has put the children to bed. And why does she look so tired? She has been putting the children to bed. The first sentence has put, and the second sentence has been putting. Can you, in pairs, discuss, or in threes, what the difference in meaning is between these two sentences? Yeah? I'll give you 1 minute to figure that out.
She has completed the action.
Yes, the evidence is still
And she can see them waiting. Weeping. Why does she tell us?
Nu kan je niet discussen.
I think the second, it puts more emphasis on the physical act of putting them to bed. Because it has been, so she has been putting them. So
I think the second sentence implies that she has been putting them to bed for a long time, so for about a week, for a longer period.
Okay.
Maybe.
Let me see. Does anyone think he or she knows what the difference is? Does?
I want to give it a try.
Okay.
Alright, so the first one is the action is clearly finished, and there's evidence that the children are in bed.
Action is finished, and there's evidence that the children are in bed. Excellent.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the second one is I was struggling with it a bit, but the action itself can be seen, and she has been putting. No, I gotta keep you. No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you. But the first one's obviously correct. Tim, you want to?
Yeah, I would say the second one, the action is not completed yet. It started in the past and is still going on.
Yeah, it's not necessarily completed yet. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But why do you say? Why does she look so tired? Rather than why is it so quiet here? So I put a clue in the two sentences. Anyone?
Does the act?
Yeah.
For the first sentence, it's about the children, and for the second sentence, it's about she, about her.
Yes. Yeah. The emphasis is on her in the second sentence. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We'll find out what the exact difference is. Yeah. Has put versus has been putting. Of course, the first one is simple. The second one is continuous. Right? When there's no ing form, we call that simple. And when there is an ing form, we call that continuous. Continuous. And you probably remember what I said about the continuous when I talked about the present continuous, the first continuous tense we talked about. A continuous tense always puts the focus on the action itself. So in the second sentence, the action itself has been emphasized. We're not so much not interested in the result or the evidence or the fact that it is finished. We're interested in the action itself, how hard it was, how long it took, etc. So when we use a continuous, we want to say how hard something was, or how long it took. And it may not necessarily be finished yet. Exactly. It may not be finished yet. Whereas the first one says clearly finished. Why is it so quiet here? She's put the children to bed. The second one, why does she look so tired? Oh, she's been putting and putting and putting the children to bed. And they might still not be in bed. A very familiar story to me. So what you do is you zoom in, as it were, on the action, the putting to bed. And you want to stress that this was so hard, or this took so long, and that's why she's so tired. So if you make this continuous, emphasizing the action itself, the difficulty of the action, the duration of the action. That's the difference between the present perfect simple and the present perfect continuous. The difference is not very obvious always. Sometimes there isn't even a difference between the two. So that's not always a clear difference, and the difference there is quite slight. But in this case there is a clear difference, in that the first one focuses on the result, and you don't know how long it took her and how hard it was. It might have been very hard for her to put the children to bed, but in the first sentence that's not what you stress. You don't know. It doesn't give you any information about the time it took or the effort it took to put the children to bed. It doesn't give you any information on how she feels, whether she's tired or not. The second one doesn't give you any information on whether it's finished or not. It probably isn't. But it does give you information about how she feels, or that the action apparently required effort. Any questions?
Could you repeat the what you said earlier about the ing form, and so where it's being implied and not being implied?
The ing form, that's always continuous, and the continuous, so ing form, always focuses on the action. So I walk versus I am walking. I walk is in general, I am walking is now. So you're looking at the action now. Yeah?
Alright.
Okay, bearing that in mind, here are two pictures with a sentence in the present perfect continuous. I'd like you to take 3 minutes to figure out the the rule for the present perfect continuous here. Why is the present perfect continuous used here? So I have been waiting, and she has been painting. Bearing in mind that the continuous focuses on the action itself, can you, in pairs again, 3 minutes, try to figure out what the rules are for these examples of the present perfect continuous? Go ahead. People stop talking, so probably I assume most people are finished. Let me see, because there are not so many people I can ask you today. People in the back. Does anyone, can anyone help us? What are the rules for the, Tom? Yeah, the length of time and duration, how long it took, yeah? So you say the first one emphasizes the duration, how long it took. The second one you're not sure about. Yes?
I think the second one is more focused on the action she's been doing, something that she has been seeing and so.
It focuses on the action, you say? Yeah. Well, it certainly does, but they both do. They both focus on the action because they're continuous. Now, that's a basic rule that's really important to remember, so could you say that? It's really important to remember this basic rule in the background. If something is continuous, it focuses on the action. However, on the exam, if you're asked for the first one or the second one, why is present perfect continuous used here, don't say the focus is on the action, because that's sort of the basic rule that covers all the other rules. there are more detailed rules that we want you to learn. First one, a continuing action situation until now, and you emphasize the time. So exactly what Tom said, the duration. You could also say something which started in the past and continues till now. Continued till now.
It's still happening.
It's still happening. Yeah, he hasn't finished.
Still
I have been waiting. You're still waiting, and you started a long time ago. Yeah. So a continuing action until now, or an action that started in the past and continues now, or still continues, and you emphasize the time. If you contrast this to I have waited for this bus for a long time, that's almost the same, right? I have waited for this bus for a long time.
But then it already arrived.
It could, but you could also still be waiting. Sometimes you can. For the present perfect simple, like I have worked here for 3 years, you're still working here. Yeah? So, I'll explain that in more detail later, but for some verbs, there's no difference at all. I have waited for this bus for a long time is similar to I have been waiting for this bus for a long time. However, because you use a continuous, there is more emphasis on the fact that you continually waited. You didn't go to the shop in the meantime. Like when I say I've played the piano for 3 years, it's different from I have been playing the piano for 3 years. I've been playing implies more or less that you didn't interrupt your playing. Yeah, even though sometimes people would say that. But you want to emphasize the continuous nature of the action, uninterrupted. You didn't stop in the meantime. So I've been waiting for this bus for a long time. This started in the past and still continuing. And you emphasize that this was rather long and uninterrupted. Questions about this? Second one. Here, we use the present perfect continuous to explain a present situation. So here you want to explain why she's all covered in paint. Well, she's been painting the ceiling. So you're emphasizing on the action. She's been busy painting the ceiling. And because she was so involved in painting the ceiling, she's now covered in paint. Yeah? Why does he look so tired? He's been studying. He was so involved in studying that now he looks really tired. So the action explains the result. And they are the two most important rules for the present perfect continuous. And as you can see, it's quite similar to the present perfect simple, but the present perfect simple focuses more on the result, or on the fact that it's finished, than the present perfect continuous.
Yeah.
And I'll give you more examples of that.
Yes, I wrote down result when action that is finished, but that does not imply with the continuous, so that's wrong.
That's for the simple. Yeah.
So that's simple.
Now, you want to explain something, and the ceiling might still not be finished. That's the idea with the, and I'll explain that again later on. That's the idea of the present perfect continuous. She has been painting the ceiling, and it doesn't give you any information about whether the ceiling is finished. Probably still unfinished, but what you want to say is she's all covered in paint, and that's because she has been painting the ceiling. Whereas when you say she's painted the ceiling, you don't know whether she's tired or whether she's covered in paint. All you know is the ceiling is finished. I'll explain that in more detail later on. Hello. Welcome. Okay, any other questions? More information is to come. So we'll move on. So here is a timeline. As you can see, this one started in the past and continued till now, and is probably, most likely, going to continue into the future. You see, it crosses the border for the present and still continues for a while, for some time. That's the present perfect continuous. Started in the past and still continuing. not finished yet. And the emphasis is on the action, not on the result. Okay, here's the difference between the present perfect simple and the present perfect continuous. The first one, my dad has painted the garage. And my dad has been painting the garage. The first one, all it tells you is that the garage is finished. It's painted. The entire garage is now green. The second one, it doesn't tell you whether it's finished. It's probably not finished. That's what the present perfect continuous implies. This action is not finished. Although that's not really what you want to say. What you want to say is, my dad's been painting the garage. That's why he was so tired. So in the first one, the focus is on the garage. The second one, the focus is on my dad. He is tired because he's been painting the garage. Or he's covered in paint because he's been painting the garage. The first one, the focus is on the garage, the second one, my dad. The first one, the focus is also on the fact that this is finished. The second one, the focus is not on the fact that it's finished, it's probably still unfinished. So the present perfect simple emphasizes, there's an emphasis on completion, and the present perfect continuous, there's an emphasis on the action itself. And I realize this difference is quite small. And that's true for the present perfect simple and present perfect continuous. It's not always clear what the difference is. And there might be quite a few cases you come across where there's no difference at all. But you've got to realize, that's why I emphasize this all the time, the main difference is that in continuous tenses, the focus is always on the action. You zoom in on the action, and that makes the present perfect continuous different from the present perfect simple. You zoom in on the action. That was taking rather long, or that was rather difficult, and that's still not finished. Any questions?
The continuous focuses on the action itself.
Yeah, and the simple on the fact that the action is finished, on the completion of the action. Yeah, and that's why here, what you want to say, look, the garage, it's really, really beautiful because my dad's painted it. My dad has painted the garage. And then you point at the garage, look, the garage is really beautiful now because my dad has painted it. So you put the focus on the garage, that's finished. In this one, you point to your dad, you say, look, my dad is all covered in paint. He's been painting the garage. So you focus on the action, my dad painting. Yeah?
So this is the rule you always should bear in mind when
Yeah.
you see this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and if you bear this in mind, then you understand what the difference here is between Anne has painted the ceiling. If you say Anne has painted the ceiling, you also, I said last week, we say that when we want to show evidence. Look, the ceiling is painted because Anne has painted it. That's different from here. It's a different result. It's a result of something finished. When you say she has painted the garage, when you say she has been painting the garage or the ceiling, then there's also a result, but it's a different kind of result. She is covered in paint. Yeah, the ceiling is maybe not finished, but the action itself is so hard that she's now all covered in paint. Yeah, I'm aware that this is maybe a bit complicated. Maybe it needs some time to sink in for some of you. And if you still don't understand it later, then just come to me. And this one, I've been waiting for this bus for a long time. Also, you zoom in on the action, which is not completed yet.
The action in the first sample is waiting. That's the action.
Yeah, it's the action, the waiting. It's not necessarily an action,
but in this case,
yeah, in this case it is
okay.
the situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No more questions.
Can actions be seen as verbs?
Lexical verbs are usually actions, but not always. Actions are very often described by lexical verbs and states by state verbs or copulars. Yeah?
Yeah.
So this one's finished, this one's unfinished. Hello, Sinem, come in. Yeah? Finished and unfinished. Okay, now, here are 5 sentences. I'd like you to spend a few minutes to figure out whether these are correct or incorrect. This may be a typical exam question. You have to find out whether they're correct or incorrect. If they're incorrect, say why and give the correct form of the verb. Yeah? So I'll give you, say 5 minutes to do this exercise. 5 minutes are over. So let's look at the sentences.
10 out of 10.
The first one. We've been having 3 lessons so far. This is incorrect and should be. We've had 3 lessons so far. Why? Well, the 3 lessons are complete, right? They're not still continuing. So you emphasize 3 lessons. We've already had 3 lessons. This is complete. That's the first thing you can say. Also, then you might say, well, there are more lessons to come, right? So that's unfinished. So the lesson series is unfinished. And that's exactly what I said last week for the present perfect simple. We have had. That's the present perfect simple. Last week I said we can use the present perfect simple for unfinished time. I have gone to the UK 3 times. I've been to the UK 3 times. But I may go again. We have had 3 lessons so far, and we're probably going to have another one. When I say we have been having 3 lessons so far, you focus on the action of having the lessons, which is not possible. Also, have here is a state verb. Sometimes have is a lexical verb, it's a regular lexical verb, but here it's a state verb. And which can't be used in the continuous. So the 3 lessons are complete. There maybe follows a 4th one, and that's why we use the present perfect simple. Yeah.
So I answered this with the focus here is on the amount of lessons, not on having had them. Is that a complete answer?
No. You would have to say that the focus is on the completion of the lessons.
Okay.
Yeah. If you say we've been having 3 lessons, then they might not be finished yet. Yeah, but they're finished, obviously. That's what you want to say. Yeah? Any questions about this? I realize this is complicated. What I suggest for all of you, because this is quite complicated, but you just need to get it and then it becomes clear. Rewatch this lecture and also study your book really closely because it gives you very helpful outlines, the differences between the 2 tenses. She has phoned me 3 times this week. We don't say she has been phoning me 3 times this week. Now, because these are multiple times, obviously the 3 times are finished. So you can't say she's been phoning. You can say she's been phoning me for quite a while now, but that's one action which is not completed yet. But 3 times implies 3 completed actions. So you can't use the present perfect continuous here. This is also complete. She has phoned me 3 times. She might phone again, of course, yes. But the 3 times are complete. Okay, she lives here since 9/11. Either she has lived here or she has been living here since 9/11. Yeah, so this could also be, I'll change it on the PowerPoint. Either she has lived here since 9/11 or she has been living here since 9/11. This is a situation that's still continuing. And this is a case where both are possible. And I'll give you another example later on which shows you why sometimes both are possible. So she has lived here or she has been living here. Yeah, because it started in the past and is still continuing. This is a typical mistake made by Dutch speakers. Because in Dutch we can say ze woont hier sinds 11 September. Ze woont hier sinds 11 September. She lives here since 9/11. No, not in English. In English you have to say she has lived here or she's been living here since 9/11. The fourth one, I'm working here for a long time. Again, a typical mistake made by Dutch speakers. We don't say I am working here for a long time. You say I have been working here for a long time, or I have worked here for a long time. Yeah, something that started in the past, still continuing. Oops, sorry. And the last one, he's been mending his bike, is okay. He's been mending his bike. Why is he? Why are his clothes covered in grease? Because he's been mending his bike. Yeah. Or why is he so frustrated? That's me. Why is he so frustrated? Because he's been mending his bike. I always get frustrated when I need to do things like that. Any questions? I'll let you copy the answers and then we'll move on to the next slide. No. Before I move on to the next part, where the difference between the present perfect continuous and the present perfect simple will be explained in a bit more detail. Before we do that, we'll have a 10-minute break. So 10 minutes from now, 10 minutes coffee break, and then we'll start with the next part of the lesson.
See what the damages are.
Should I pause your camera?
So much chaos.
Yeah, I literally had to hold on to a pole.
Yeah.
Because I was going to fall down.
Ik heb geen idee.
People are just blown away.
That almost happened to me. Yeah. Yeah.
Might happen to me too, because
Yeah.
it's not that much. So.
Yeah.
But I'll fly my way home.
That'd be nice.
Mr. Bit.
Break time.
Yes.
We use the present perfect or present perfect continuous for a situation that is still continuous. But isn't the present perfect for something that has already happened?
Not necessarily. No. Present perfects either things always has a link to the present. That's what I said about the present perfect. So either it's just finished, but the result is visible, or it's still continuing. Yeah.
So it can be both
Yeah.
in this situation.
Yeah. But realize, just bear in mind the difference between the two is very slight, and if you get confused about that, you just need some time to let it sink in. Read through the chapter again, and read it. Bear in mind, simple is indeed something which happened in the past, but has a link to the present. So sometimes it's still continuing. I've worked
Looking at me, how many
it's still continuing. Okay.
Okay, just watch on the screen.
Yeah.
Is it still recording?
Started again. So we've covered the present perfect simple and the present perfect continuous. I'll show you, maybe this helps you. I'll show you the two timelines again. Last week I said the present perfect simple is an action in the past that has a link to the present, either because it's still not finished, which shows that the present perfect simple doesn't always have to be finished. That's what makes this complicated. Yeah, that's why I try to give these general rules that maybe help you to remember it. This is in the past and has a link to the present, either because it's still continuing, still ongoing. I have worked here for 3 years, and I still work here. Or because it happened in the past, very recently, and is still evidence. Because Tim and Daz have gone to get some coffee, right? That's why they're not here yet. Or they have just bought some coffee. Yeah, you can see it. It's on their tables. That's a recent action with present results. Yeah. This one focuses on the action itself. It's very similar to the present perfect simple, and sometimes there's no difference between the two, as we have seen, and we'll see more examples of that. But usually this focuses on the action itself. Why are Tim and Daz so tired? Because they've been buying some coffee.
No, we've just had a rough night.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
It's the wind and such.
Yeah. You've been
Oh, yeah,
walking
that was
with
it.
Yeah. Dancing in the rain, walking in the wind.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So bear those two general rules in mind. Finished, unfinished. Not always so, but most of the time, finished, unfinished. So, here are 4 sets of sentences, one in the present perfect and the other one in the present perfect continuous. Remember, I think I mentioned this last week, the present perfect simple is also sometimes just called the present perfect without simple. The present perfect continuous is always called present perfect continuous. I'll give you a few minutes, 5 minutes, to figure out what how the two sentences relate to each other. Are there any incorrect sentences? And can you explain what the rules are for these sentences? Yeah? If both are correct, then you say both are correct. Is there a difference? Maybe there is a difference, maybe there isn't, and give the rules. Yeah? So 5 minutes for these 4 sets of sentences. Let's look at the answers. How long have you been teaching English? How long have you taught English? I'll give you the answers for the sake of time. Ladies, you finish your conversation. I'd like to get started again, thank you. Yes. Is it recording? Now that's recorded as well. Okay. For this one, both are correct. I've been teaching English. How long have you been teaching English? How long have you taught English? And we've seen this before. I've lived here and I've been living here. I've worked here, I've been working here. Why? For these verbs, when you use these verbs, hello.
Maar als je zit belangrijk voor de presentaties vanmiddag.
Ja.
Er zijn 10 klasgenoten die kunnen komen in verband met het weer vanuit Den Haag. Dus ik was wel even weten hoe we dat zouden.
Zullen we eventjes, ik ben nu aan het college geven als we om 10:12.
Ja, ik heb buiten dan les, dus een beetje, misschien dat het verder meer anders kan.
Ja, doe even via de mail. Ik kan het niet nu oplossen. Ja, goed zo. Ja. These verbs, live, work, teach, study, when you say them, they imply a continuous action, right? When you live somewhere, this is permanent, right? Even though it's temporary, when you live somewhere, it continues all the time. You don't live there 1 minute and not another minute, right? When I tap my hand, of course I can stop any second. That's different from living. You can't stop living somewhere 1 second and then go on the other second. Yeah?
Is that a challenge?
The same goes for work and teach and study. These kinds of verbs, they imply something which continues automatically.
I accept.
Right? Even when I lie in bed at night, I still work at the Hogeschool Rotterdam. Yeah, I still live in Gouda, even though I'm sleeping. I don't need to do anything about that. And I still study theology. That doesn't finish unless I get my diploma. Yeah? So these imply a continuous action. That's why we can also use the present perfect continuous for them. That's why we can also say, I have been living here. Yeah?
What is the difference in meaning between the first and the second sentence?
There is no difference in meaning in the first and second sentence. Yeah. There's no difference in meaning. It's because the word teach by itself, this is your job, it implies a continuous action. So that's why you can either say, how long have you been teaching English, started in the past, still continuing, or how long have you taught English, also started in the past, still continuing. There's no difference in meaning. However, if you ask me, one of my colleagues asked me later on today, why are you so tired? I wouldn't say I've taught English I've taught for 3 hours. I would say I have been teaching for 3 hours. So if there's a difference, the difference is in that for describing how tired you are or how hard it was, you wouldn't say how long have you, I've taught English for 2 hours. I've been teaching English. Yeah. But in this case, there's no difference in meaning. They can take the present perfect simple as well as the present perfect continuous, because these verbs are continuous by itself. I realize that's complicated, but I don't know how else to explain it. For some verbs, you don't just stop teaching or stop studying, that's just what you do. Okay. We'll move to the second one. I've been understanding this subject since I was at high school. I've understood this subject since I was at high school. This is extra high. Right? That's like when you've eaten space cake. That's when you shouldn't do that at school, but if you do, then it becomes high school. For this one, the first one's incorrect. You can't say, I've been understanding this subject, because understand is a state verb. And state verbs can never be continuous. You can't say, I am understanding, you can't say, I was understanding, and you can't say, I have been understanding. Yeah? Because this is a state and not an action, you can't focus on the action. You either understand or you don't understand. Ms. Fry has watched 3 movies today, or she's been watching movies since 10 o'clock this morning. The first one simply answers the question, how many movies has she watched? She's watched 3 movies. The second one emphasizes this took really long. She took all this time to watch these movies. She has been watching 3 movies. She has been watching movies. since 10 o'clock this morning. So here, the focus is on the result. The result is, or the focus is on the completion, sorry. She's watched 3 movies, complete, right? She might watch a 4th, but the 3 movies are complete. That's done. She can tick that off her list. The second one, she's been watching movies. You don't want to inform the audience how many they were. You don't want to inform them about completion. All you want to tell them is she took all this time. You want to focus on the action of watching movies. Right? Yeah, so here, a clear example where the present perfect simple focuses on the completion, the present perfect continuous focuses on the action itself. Victor has done his homework so he can go to sleep. Why is Victor so quiet? He's been doing his homework. Again here, completion. Victor has done his homework, complete. So he can go to sleep, right? The evidence, there's evidence visible. His homework is done, so he can show that as evidence, and now he can go to sleep. One thing's finished, and he can continue with the next. The second one, why is Victor so quiet? Well, his homework is maybe not finished yet, but he's so tired because he's been doing his homework. You want to focus on the action of doing homework. This is similar to my dad's been painting the garage, or she's been painting the ceiling. And the same goes for Miss Fry has been watching 3 movies. You're not interested in whether the homework is finished or whether the movies are finished. You're interested in how long it took, or how hard it was. Yeah, so again, you zoom in on the action of doing the homework, or on the action of watching the movies. For this one, the first one, Victor has done his homework so he can go to sleep. You'll see a picture of someone closing his books and going to sleep. The second one, he's been doing his homework. You'll see a picture of someone really studying and now really tired. Yeah? Here, you see a picture of Miss Fry really content with the 3 movies she's watched, finished, done. Here, you'll see a picture of Miss Fry really intensely watching the movies since 10 o'clock. Any questions? Yes?
I'm still trying to formulate one. No, you can continue, yeah.
Okay.
I'll come back to it.
So this is all about the present perfect and present perfect simple and continuous.
Yeah.
So if there is a question, ask it now, because we're going to do some recap.
So what we've been focusing on today is actually on the specific actions and the results.
Yeah.
So if you're focusing on the action, it's the present perfect simple. And if you're focusing on the result, it's a present perfect continuous.
The other way around. Continuous focuses on the action, and the simple on the result.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what I've got here. Sorry.
Or the completion, rather.
Complete.
Yeah.
Okay. Clear.
Okay. No more questions about what I've told you.
So PPS.
Yeah.
Result.
So bear in mind completion and action. Present perfect simple is completion, present perfect continuous is action. And sometimes there's no difference in meaning, as with live, study, teach, work, etc.
Because you cannot stop doing it.
Yeah, you can't stop living somewhere. Or you can, but then you can't stop 1 minute and then continue living it. Yeah?
Alright.
Okay, let's do a grammar recap of everything we've done so far.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Hold on to your chairs. Complete the following noun phrases. Okay, so we'll do a quiz of everything we've done so far. To wrap it all up. Please complete the following noun phrases with the adjectives in the correct order or way or whatever you'd like to call it. About 30 seconds to do this, then I'll give you the answer.
Color comes later. Charming red dress. And smart, articulated. Smart comes first in the...
Okay, time's up. I'll give you 1 minute. 50 more seconds.
Ossakom. It's the Ossakom, right?
Not for this one.
No?
Well, it doesn't apply. But
Origin. Stick.
yeah, we'll look at the Ossakom later. Okay, here's the answer. A smart and articulate lady, a charming red dress. When two adjectives describe a similar quality, a similar kind of thing, smart and articulate are similar kinds of things. Whereas charming and red are different. Charming is different from, red is a colour. And charming is really subjective, right? I may think someone's charming, whether you think they're appalling. Why do you think they're appalling? So charming, red, we all agree about red. Yeah? So charming and red are two different kinds of adjectives. That's why you can use them without and. A charming red dress, you wouldn't say a charming and red dress. But you wouldn't say a smart, articulate lady either. You'd say a smart and articulate lady. Because these describe similar qualities. Put the adjectives in the correct order. So here's what you said comes into play, yeah? Okay, again, 1 minute. Right, here is the answer. Nice old orange leather purse. Remember the acronym OSSACOMPT. I told you I'm not in favour of swearing, but there's one swear word I encourage you to use, and that's OSSACOMPT. OSSACOMPT.
Do you write it down with the comma?
What do you mean a comma?
The comma between nice or...
No, no comma between. No. You can use a comma between, instead of and. So if you have two adjectives that both describe opinion, then you can use a comma. Yeah? Instead of and. Right, so here's the acronym. For the first one, remember I said adjectives of similar quality. For example, two adjectives that both describe opinion, they're a similar quality. Then you'd have to use and. Yeah? So a nice and beautiful bag, for example. Yeah? Or an orange and brown purse. Then you'd have to use and. Yeah.
What was the squaring word you said?
OSSACOMPT. OSSACOMPT. Yeah, that's how you can remember the order of the adjectives. Opinion, size, shape, age, colour, origin, material, purpose, and type. Purpose, form, and type. Yeah? Put the adjective in the correct form and complete the sentence. Again, for this one, 30 seconds.
add a word?
Yes, you have to.
Yes.
Can we do?
Time's up. I'll show you. He's the least eloquent speaker in the world. We don't say eloquentist, of course, even though we do so in Dutch. The welsprekendste.
Welbesprekendste, do we say that?
Welbespraakste or welsprekendste. Yeah, in Dutch you'd also prefer the meest welsprekende. Meest welbespraakt. But because we only say E-R-E-S-T, we only use E-R-E-S-T for monosyllabic words, words with one syllable. And there's an exception, but I told you about that. So that's why we say most eloquent and not eloquentist, because this is more than one syllable. Underline all of the adverbs and adverbials and indicate what type they are. I'll give you 1 minute.
1 minute?
2 minutes. Yes, maybe that's fair.
Scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Across the street heb ik één grote verb. Bread in the bread runs fast.
Breath runs.
Bread runs, yeah.
Runs.
He runs. Bread runs. Bread runs.
That's the rest of the sentence pretty much. The rest is an adverbial.
He runs.
He runs, yes. I don't get the joke.
No, there's no joke. There's just an answer. Like this, you can leave everything out except for Brett runs.
Yeah, obviously.
Nice trick question.
I always assume you're making a joke.
No, I'm not always joking.
Okay, here are the answers. Rarely is an adverb of frequency. Incredibly is an adverb of degree. Fast is an adverb of manner. Remember, we don't say fastly, we say fast. It's an irregular adverb. Across the street is not an adverb, an adverbial. Right? It's more than one word, it's an adverbial. Syntax, remember. Adverbial of direction. To the ice cream cart is an adverbial. Not an adverb, but adverbial. Of place. And on Fridays is an adverbial of time. It's good to know the difference between these different adverbs and adverbials, but it's not going to be an essential part of the exam. You think, how can I remember? How on earth am I ever going to remember frequency, degree, manner, direction, place, time, and other things as well, like instrument and reason, whatever? Don't worry about that. Yeah, it's nice that you know the difference. You can describe the difference between different adverbs because that helps you understand different other things as well. Don't worry if you think you can't remember all those. Right. Where in the sentence can we put the adverb normally?
Between Jack and calls.
30 seconds.
Or in front. Normally Jack calls me. Jack normally calls me.
This could be an exam question.
Jack calls me every day.
If we did capitalize the end, we could put it Jack calls me normally. We capitalize the end, isn't it?
Normally. Jack calls me normally. Is there one answer is correct or oh just
I'll show you.
yeah.
Time's up. Normally Jack calls me every evening. Jack normally calls me every evening. Jack calls me every evening normally. Well, the last one is less. It's least used. But as you can see, you wouldn't say calls me normally every morning. Yeah, so normally Jack calls me every evening. Normally. Right, next. Is the following sentence correct or not correct? If not correct, you can explain your answer. The carpenter works far less dexterously than my brother. I'll give you 2 minutes for this one. And look at the word dexterous if you don't know it.
Yes, I just wanted to do that.
Daar gaan onze belastingcenten. Je zou er maar wonen, gast. Ja, wil je dat?
Kijk dit. Wacht, wat? Wat is dat? Is dat zo'n wc? Ja. Nee. Oh joh, als je daar echt zou zitten, joh. Oh, hij komt nog te...
Okay.
Hij gaat
Okay.
helemaal over de kop.
This carpenter works far less dexterously than my brother. This is correct.
Waar gaan we ons belastingcenten? Ja, ik weet het. Maar je mag het zien.
Far less dexterously. This is correct. Dexterously has more than one syllable, so we have to say less.
Do we need to explain our answer when it's correct on the test?
Yes, no. Sorry, no. We don't need to know.
Only if it's...
No, because when it's correct, you don't know what to explain. Because then everything could be explained. Like this or carpenter works with it. Choose the correct forms and account for your answer. The clocks of the house's clocks were all broken. 30 seconds.
We? What are you doing? Which one do you choose?
Okay, time's up. Here's the answer. The clocks of the house. With things, we use nouns of. Or of is noun, sorry. No apostrophe s. Apostrophe s for people, animals, but not for things. Yeah? So with things, we use of.
So with apostrophe s we use for?
People or animals and other things as well. You should look them up in your notes or your book. I don't know how many there are, you see, so every time I've forgotten how many there are, so every time I'm surprised there's another one. Jack has lived or Jack has been living with his parents since the divorce. 30 seconds.
And account for your answer?
Yeah. Explain your answer.
Even I could explain it.
Yeah.
Shall I explain?
Later on.
Okay.
10 seconds.
I think this sentence is incorrect. Like at a whole.
As a whole, it is.
As a whole, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, time's up. You wanted to explain.
No,
can you explain?
Please first give the answer.
Both are correct.
Oh, okay.
What did you want to say?
No.
No, but
Yeah.
sorry, but you cannot live with since parents is plural and they divorced.
Ah,
So you cannot live with both
that's
of your
quite
parents.
right. You see, I didn't put this together.
You cannot live with both of your parents when they're divorced because they
Every time, every time I copy slides from someone else, every time I try to look at them more closely, because every week there's some mistake somewhere, right? And I always overlook some one or two, but there is a mistake. Jack is, well, obviously he hasn't been living with his parents. Well, maybe his parents are still living together, but they're divorced, right?
That's
a possibility, yeah.
That's very far searched.
Bed, right?
That's very far searched.
Ze delen nog steeds
Far-fetched,
rekening.
we
Ja,
Far-fetched.
Far-fetched.
Yeah.
ze delen nog steeds rekening, maar alleen geen liefde.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Different
Jack.
sleeping rooms.
But grammatically speaking, the sentence is correct, right?
Both, okay.
Both are correct. Has lived or has been living. Because live is one of those verbs that take either a simple or a continuous. Yeah?
Just put out the since the divorce.
Yeah.
Jack has lived with his parents.
Or with his other parents, right? He's got 4 parents. That's possible today. Well, of course it is possible. Yeah, you just add some DNA from someone else and then you've got 4 parents.
Also born from 3 months.
I think this is too much. So I'll leave this for another lesson.
We celebrate this lesson because the Earth is getting warmer, or gets warmer.
Is getting
gradual.
then. Here's the homework. Take your time, not only to cram the test coming up, but also to re-watch some of the lectures, especially the topics that you found more difficult, more challenging, and always feel free to ask questions, but take your time, the extra spare time that you're bound to have during the exam weeks, because there's no classes, to maybe review your notes and re-watch some of the lectures, not only for this class, but also for other classes. Because there's more tenses to come. Okay. Thanks for your attention, thanks for being here on this rough day, and good luck with your exams, and I'll see you after exam.
Thank you. See you in 3 weeks. Right?